Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, December 18th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Cotton Bowl game against Missouri is in 11 days. The game against Michigan in 348 days. This is something of an emergency podcast, talking today about the transfer of former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord to Syracuse. McCord, of course, went in the transfer portal shortly after the Buckeyes' regular season-ending loss to Michigan. He was sort of projected a bunch of different places, and now he has found his new home. It is the Syracuse University Orange, and their new head coach, Fran Brown. Tony Gerdeman of BuckeyeHuddle.com joins me. Tony, this is one of these situations where it's a new coaching staff. The new recruiting class isn't signed yet. The transfer portal stuff is largely still up in the air. The coaching staff is still, they don't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. This feels to me like this is just a place where, okay, Kyle McCord is going to get to start for that quarterback for Syracuse next year. And that seems like that was the primary driving force behind him leaving. And it's the primary driving force behind where he landed.
Yeah. And I guess for him also, he gets to be in the tri-state area, be close to home, for the Philadelphia native. But yeah, you look at what Syracuse, they're losing their starting quarterback. So this is an opportunity where you go in and they're not bringing you in to be anybody's backup. And he wanted a guaranteed starting spot, and seems to me that he has gotten that. And it is very interesting. I wonder if there's some feeling of we're all in this together because we're all new. So you're all experiencing it together, quarterback, coaches, head coach. Who knows what else is going to happen for Syracuse in the portal and in recruiting. But you get what you get what you set out to get, which is a starting spot with, I would say, very little competition for that spot. And of course, no loyalty in terms of Fran Brown having any loyalty to anybody that is, I recruited this quarterback. He's been with me. He stuck it out for 3 years. It's his time. There's none of that. Everybody's new. Everybody's carpet bagging, basically. And so you go with the guy that you told could start, basically.
Boy, you saying that Syracuse is close to South Jersey is one of those. Tell me you've never driven across the New York Thruway all the way across New York without telling me you've never driven across the New York Thruway all the way across New York. Not close. Not a lot of exciting stuff between point A and point B either, but that's okay. He will be the starting quarterback. And this is a situation where, yes, Syracuse has somewhat recently been, involved in the story of a starting NFL quarterback in Tommy DeVito. That's not where he ended up, and that's, we'll see how long the Tommy Cutlets magic lasts with the Giants. But this is a spot where Kyle McCord is significantly better than the typical Syracuse quarterback. That's, this is a, there are always these conversations about, is the transfer portal going to be better or worse for teams at the top of the sport or the bottom of the sport or the middle of the sport? Syracuse kind of squarely in the middle of the sport. This is one of the situations where this is a really beneficial thing for Syracuse because this is a better quarterback than they would typically get. And for a head coach who's just starting out his career, that's going to be, that's going to make 2024 Syracuse football a lot more potentially interesting and exciting than it might have been otherwise. As I said off the top, though, it's not super clear what kind of offense they're going to be running and what Kyle McCord is actually signing up for here. Fran Brown is a defensive coach. He is a secondary coach for Georgia. He has never been a coordinator, and he's on the defensive side of the ball regardless. So it's not like he has any kind of real strong schematic ties there. And the projected offensive coordinator is New York Giants running backs coach Jeff Nixon. So, Tony, can you go into some great detail on the exact scheme that you're expecting the New York Giants running backs coach to run if he is in fact hired as the head coach or the offensive coordinator at Syracuse? Take as much time as you need.
Oh boy, no, Tom. I think I'm done. Thank you for having me. I will say, together they spent time together, Nixon and Fran Brown at Baylor in the 2017-2018 era, and so maybe there's something there. Although, I don't know how much of that era is worth writing home about. They did throw the ball. Charlie Brewer is a 3,000-yard passer. So they have that, just looking at the 2018 season, for instance, they threw for 3,800 yards. So there's some offense there at least. Maybe I don't know where that tree ends if there's somebody else coming in terms of a quarterback's coach from this realm, but I think these defensive coaches, you just never know whether it's going to be. I want like Graciano. I want conservative approach. I just want to milk the clock. Or if it's a defensive coach who's like, I want an offensive coordinator that runs an offense that I hate facing. That where you have the aggressive coordinators who want that kind of pain in the butt offense. Like Ryan Day wants a defense that he hates facing, that sort of thing. And so, we'll see what happens. I know Garrett Schrader, their 3-year starting quarterback, was also a running threat. I don't see that continuing for Syracuse. So, but the good news is for them is they have a legitimate blue chip quarterback coming in, and Ohio State fans can say what they want. But, Kyle McCord threw for 3,000 yards at Ohio State. Much better touchdown and interception ratio. This is about as big of a win for Syracuse as we have seen, in years, maybe since they beat Clemson in like 2017 or something.
Yeah, and they are set up to start the season with potentially a number of wins. Just looking at their 2024 schedule, the first thing that jumps out is me for about the 17th time forgetting that Carrier is no longer the sponsor of their home stadium. It is no longer the Carrier Dome. It is now the JMA Wireless Dome. And the old joke about them not having air conditioning in the dome sponsored by an air conditioning company makes me wonder if they have Wi-Fi in the JMA Wireless Dome. I don't know. We'll all find out together on Saturday, August 31st, when they open the season with the Ohio Bobcats at home, at Army, then Holy Cross at home, then an apparent neutral site game against UConn with the site and city still TBD, and then at Boston College, a conference game at Cal, a conference game, Syracuse at Berkeley, California. Welcome to 2024. I mean, you're now halfway through your regular season, and I have not seen I don't see they're not going to win that one. They're not going to win all of them, but they might win most of them. And then it gets a little more real at NC State, at Pitt, home for Georgia Tech, home for Miami, home for Stanford. Yes, the Stanford Cardinal, also now a conference rival of Syracuse. And then finally, Virginia Tech. I mean, that's a pretty manageable schedule. You've got an AC schedule. You're not playing ACC schedule. You're not playing Florida State. You're not playing Clemson. You're not playing North Carolina. I mean, that's it. That's a season where you could tell me Syracuse goes 7-5, 8-4, maybe 9-3. I mean, there's obviously a lot that needs to happen between then and now, but you can see how this could be something that turns out to, Kyle McCord goes there, finishes 8-4, gets himself drafted. I mean, you could see definitely where this makes sense from McCord's end.
Yeah, and the ACC schedule thing, and once they have all the dates set up, we'll know more. But the schedule, the opponents are set, and there's nothing there that seems impossible. Just looking at their schedule, at Army is probably the top 3 most difficult games for them, I think. And I was looking at Miami's schedule the other day, and I said that if they're not in the playoffs with that schedule, because they basically have the same schedule as Syracuse, and none of these games seem like, well, that's an automatic loss. And now half of them may be toss-ups, and what determines an ACC division champ, not that there are any more divisions, but so much of this is just, do you win your toss-up games? And it's kind of like the Big Ten West. Did you win your toss-up games? If so, you're going to be in the conference championship game. It gets a little bit more difficult now without divisions. But you look at this, and I don't know, at North Carolina State is maybe the one you're like, they get Miami at home, so that'll be beneficial. But nothing here looks out of the realm of possibility, and yet you can see anything from 5-7 to 9-3, 10-2.
That's the magic of these new conferences, I guess, that you're getting things a little more, the fact that the Big Ten and the SEC have sort of taken a lot of the good teams away from some of the other leagues. Feels like the Big 12 is much more wide open now. The ACC is much more wide open now. So we'll see how that all plays out. One last thing I wanted to talk about, and I was just thinking about this again, is we had sort of, I think, talked about this when McCord first transferred. How different might life be if Kyle McCord had not played in the 2021 Michigan State game? Because Kyle McCord played 4 games at the beginning of his true freshman season, started a game against Akron, played very briefly against Rutgers, played very briefly against Maryland, played very briefly against Indiana. And so then he could have maintained his redshirt season. And then in 2021 against Michigan State, that was the game where C.J. Stroud had them out to a 56-0 lead at halftime. The week before the Michigan game, Kyle McCord played, I think, essentially the whole second half of that game, finishing 4 of 8 for 17 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick. But the fact that he played in that 5th game means now he does not have another year of eligibility. 2024 is the last year of eligibility he'll have. Given the fact that he, made his decision to transfer based on the fact that this was going to be his last season of eligibility, and he wanted to make sure he was starting and wasn't going to lose his starting job, and because with the NFL draft potentially looming, you got to have another year of film out there. How crazy is it that a decision to play him in the second half against Michigan State could potentially have played that kind of a role in him leaving Ohio State 3 years later?
Yeah, it is interesting. I do wonder if just this experience this season was something that was not a great experience for Kyle McCord, and would he have chosen anyways to just move on and begin anew with the situation at Ohio State? The reception from the fans, I think, is maybe something that it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. I mean, C.J. Stroud even went through it, but yeah, just that one game. And at the time it was, well, nobody sticks around for 5 years anyway. Ohio State quarterbacks don't stick around for 5 years. So what does it matter? And now you're seeing, well, this is why it matters, because you can't just assume somebody's here for 3 years and then they're gone. And now you've got that to deal with. I do wonder if it's one of those things where do you stick it out until the spring? And then if you aren't, is this a Joe Burrow thing where if you aren't the starter in the spring, then you're like, well, I'll just jump in the portal and go, and now I'll go to Syracuse, something like that. But, you got the year of starting, so you're going to want more than that going into the next season, especially your final season. So it is interesting. I still don't think that he would have accepted not being named the starter regardless of that 5th game.
Yeah, it does feel like that might be the difference, what you said there, leaving now versus leaving after the spring. If you have the margin of error that you could have 2 more seasons, that maybe makes leaving after the spring and doing the exact same career trajectory that Joe Burrow did, that makes that a lot more feasible, I think, rather than walking into a new system after spring, not having spring practice, new head coach, everyone's learning the system at the same time. I think that maybe it makes it easier to do that and jump to Syracuse at that point if you do have 2 years left. But either way, he played in the 2021 Michigan State game. He will play in the 2024 Syracuse games, and we will see what Kyle McCord's career goes, where his career goes from here, and then we will see where the Ohio State quarterback room goes from here, as well as Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, Air Noland, and potential transfer quarterback. Mark Givler called him Chug 4.0. Whoever he may be, will look what that quarterback battle will look like throughout the this month as they head into the Cotton Bowl, and of course all through the off season and spring ball and the summer and fall camp and all that good stuff. And the best place to track all of that stuff and follow along with the quarterback battle and everything else going on with Ohio State football is at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Have our fantastic team of insiders covering the team, Tony and Kevin and I covering the Buckeyes, headed down to sunny, he said, hopefully, Dallas in about a week or so, and then covering the Cotton Bowl, and then, of course, early signing day coming up on Wednesday, all the transfer portal fun, and, whatever emotion the transfer portal may emote from you, that is all happening there, and, of course, our fantastic team of X's and O's gurus making you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.